I used to let you in without a question. Now I'm gonna be cautious.
This is East Coast DNA. I'm your host, Darcy Walsh, and today's featured guest, the artist known as Qwinn, Brittany McQuinn. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So you're a singer-songwriter based out of New Brunswick. Are
Yes.
you born and raised in the area?
Yeah. Fredericton. I'm a Fredericton human for sure. Yeah, I've been here my whole life.
Now, I did notice some of your online content. You create some similar content of your own. I know that you have some like vlog posts on your YouTube channel, and you have the Qwinn Creates out there as well as part of your
Yeah.
handle.
Yeah.
So going back to maybe not necessarily childhood, but your upbringing, I did see in researching you and reading over some of your bios and some previous interviews, it's a little atypical of our guests on the show. Typically, about 90% of the artists that are on will say that they grew up in a musical household, and it's something that was always around them, but you were not so much that case. I read
No.
video games and film.
Yeah. So I would say I kind of have this like hodgepodge kind of I don't know, situation where my dad is a video producer and I grew up around that. He worked in a studio until he went out on his own when
Mhm.
I was in university. And my mom is a nurse and like a lover of music, and she can put together like a little like rhyme, and usually it's something kind of silly and like just kind of make up a song. And her father was a singer. He didn't do a ton with it, but I think that was just because of his, life. He needed to work and whatnot, but he did a lot of what he did do. He sang with Hank Snow for a little while
Cool.
as backup. So yeah, so I have a little bit of a musical history there, but there's kind of a creative history on my dad's side, especially. So it's kind of like I mixed. I got these bits from both my sides of the family and mixed them together, and that's why I am who I am, I guess. So
Definitely a supportive environment as far as becoming a creator of your own.
yeah. Yeah, my dad would bring home cassette tapes from his studio for me, just blank ones. And I had a Fisher Price recorder, and I would just take it and I would record things on one tape. And then I would take that, put it in a tape player, hit record, and harmonize. And that's how I would layer the vocals together. So
Oh,
I would
fun.
have, yeah. So I started kind of, I guess, recording music, producing music then. And fast forward to today, it sounds like kind of silly. It's like with a Fisher Price recorder, but in between it was like that. And then I started playing with my Mac, like the software on my Mac to try to make stuff as a teenager. And then now I'm using like the professional digital audio workspace software, and I'm able to finally like make my own stuff. I'm adding producer to the title of what I do. Yay!
And so
Yeah.
nowadays, are you producing your own material then, like with your latest single? Like, is this stuff that you're
Yeah.
doing yourself?
Yeah,
That's
I made
impressive.
it. I made it myself right here in this little musical space that I have in my house. Um, yeah, it was time, I think, for me to do that, and I was really excited to like try it. And I was just having so much fun doing it and kind of decompressing from a day, just coming in here and working on it. So yeah, and I got help from friends, producer friends, to help me with it. And my friend Nick Fowler mixed and mastered it. So that was super helpful because I just wanted it to be of like streaming quality. I
Mhm.
wanted to make sure everything was balanced. And I'm just so new that I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a little bit of help. And
Yeah,
then
it's
eventually I'll
important.
be able to do it myself, I think. But
Yeah, I always do this when I'm talking to artists too, is that there's some relationship to what I do and what you guys do that I can kind of see some parallels. And it is important to know when to ask for help, but you always end up learning how to do it eventually anyway. So
yes.
it's a different era than splicing cassettes and overdubbing that way, but
Yes.
the technology is there. It still requires a lot of effort and a learning curve, but it's
Yeah.
definitely more accessible these days. So it's great to see artists that are able to do it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, it
With
feels very liberating to be able to do it myself. And I'm just gonna fix my microphone because it is 100%
absolutely.
falling down. I need like extra muscle to.
I have a couple extra stands here that I definitely don't use because of that.
Yup,
Uh, up,
right?
upgrades
So,
are just for stability mostly.
yeah, exactly. All right, so we're gonna just adjust it so we don't have any more problems. And let me know if the audio quality has decreased too much, but I think
Oh
we're
yeah,
fine.
no, it's perfect.
Okay, good. We shouldn't have any more issues.
Yeah, no problem at all. So you started releasing your own material in 2015. Is that when you had your first
Well,
album release?
technically, yes. So I put out a single in 2010,
Hmm.
and then there was this 5-year gap where I don't think I put anything out. And then I was like, you know what? I just have to finish this album I've been working on since 2010. And I just finished it and put it out. And that was my first album. Yeah.
And now
And
I
the only
found,
album, actually, the only album that I've done. So,
and that's Basement to Rooftops.
yeah.
So I did find that on SoundCloud. Is it available on other streaming services or?
I've taken it off of most
Yeah,
places because it's so different from what I'm doing now.
that's
But
what I
but
was
it's
going to get to.
around.
Yeah.
It's around. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you find, like, I know in between you had a duo project. It was more of electronic music sound.
Yes. Yeah.
And now that you're back doing solo stuff, I definitely see where some of that sound carries over, but it's still yet its own thing, but completely different from what you did beforehand too. So what do you find is the biggest difference? I mean, we're looking at, I hate to say that's almost a 10-year period,
It
but
is. Yeah.
it's 8 years.
Yeah.
So what do you find is the biggest difference besides being able to produce yourself in the way that you create a song?
Uh, I think the biggest difference now is that when I get an idea, I am taking it to the finish line mostly by myself,
Hmm.
at least to like 75-80%, rather than before 10 years ago when I first started recording music. It was, I have an idea, I'm going to record a demo on my phone and then show it to a producer and then hope that they can help me get what I have in my head out there. And there was always a compromise because um if you have like a specific vision for a song,
Hmm.
it would be challenging to kind of accept that it was like, it's not going to happen because I can't explain what I'm wanting. I don't know how to do it myself. And I want the music to get out there. So we're going to go with this version. And that happened a lot, not all the time. I didn't always have like a vision for a song.
Sure.
But when it did, that was always a little bit um, hard. And I think the biggest difference now is that uh, I'm not going through like the filter of a different producer's brain and hoping for the best. I think now it's kind of like I'm a lot more like self-sufficient, and that has been a journey that has had like roots in like just not just the creative kind of growth, but also in my personal journey of like understanding that I don't need to rely on someone else to help me to do the things that I love. I can, do those things myself and bring people in as needed. So that was
Hmm.
kind of like a much deeper level what was going on, I think. So, yeah.
And before we get too far away from producers that you work from, I do know from watching some of the content that you have out there, there's some kind of relation with Adam Warren, or
Yeah.
Wants, as he's probably more known in these circles.
Yeah.
So did you collaborate with Adam in the past aside from performing with him, or you just
No.
know him through the scene?
Yes, we're just music buddies. So, yeah, I just jumped on stage with him in I think February. He had a show locally in Fredericton, and it
Mhm.
was featuring a female artist, and he wanted to have like another female voice on stage. So I jumped in just to kind of say hi and get out of the house and do something in the middle of winter. So
Yeah, he did bring a
yeah.
similar show to Glasgow, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a few different artists that he had up, but it was the same type concept. So I was excited to see that he was doing it in different regions with different artists as well. That's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
exciting.
He's big on having like a lot of different people up on stage with him, and I think that's kind of fun because you never know
Yeah,
exactly what you're gonna get when you go to a launch show, right? So
yeah, it always looks like the party's actually on the stage instead of on the floor. So
yeah, you know what? I would say that's true, and that vibe carries through the room, even if it's a small show or something like it was in February. 'Cause it's just dead of winter; it's hard, right?
yeah.
But yeah, it was like, all right, this is fun, you know. Yeah, it was great.
So when you perform your own songs, are you performing solo on stage, or do you bring some people up with you to do some instrumentation?
So that's something I thought about a lot during the pandemic
Mm-hmm.
when I was deciding to go solo. I was like, okay, I don't want to be alone up there as much as possible, at least not right now, because I really want to be able to focus on singing and performing the songs and not learning the technology and stressing out about if it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work, and just trying to take it step by step. I think down the road I'm going to do that sometimes, but right now I'm like, my ideal show is a show where I have I have a dancer here and a dancer here, and then I've got a DJ right back here doing their thing, kind of running the music side of things and
Mm-hmm.
adding a little bit of flair here and there. And that's the show that I've been able to bring to a few different places now. And I love it. It's super, super fun. And I'm dancing some now. So that's new. And
We
yeah.
just had April Eileen on an episode. I think she has that down packed. If you haven't seen her before, perhaps you have because you guys are
Oh
both
yeah.
New Brunswick based. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
she's up there dancing while she's playing and singing. It's quite impressive.
It is, yeah. I've seen her. I saw that show, I think the one you're talking about, like where she's dancing and moving while she's
Hmm.
performing at ECMA's last year. So it was cool. Yeah.
So your new single just came out, but in the last year or so, like through, like you said, you started releasing some of your own material, but you had a lot
Mhm.
of singles come out over the last 2 years, maybe. Like in
Yeah.
2022, I know that you had quite a few. They're spaced out, so you obviously have some type of strategy on how you're releasing that material.
Yes and no. In part, it's so spaced out because I had a baby in the middle of all that.
Oh, congratulations.
Well, thank you. And yeah, I didn't ever want to stop making music, but also spaced out because I have been kind of figuring out how I want to kind of flow as Qwinn. Now, I don't plan on shifting gears again. I
Hmm.
think this is kind of where I'm landing. So I might put out different types of music under this name, but it'll mostly stay around this like song, I think, that I just put out. I think. And yeah, and so I've kind of been just sorting out what my sound is as well. But yeah, the baby aspect is like super uh it's really a factor in
Yeah,
the single release plan, because
yeah,
it's been
exactly.
so busy. He's a year and a half now though. So it's getting a
Well,
little easier.
it's a little easier.
Yeah.
It takes a
Not
long time
easy.
before it get much easier than that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have any kids?
Yeah, I've got two myself. Yeah,
Yes.
one's all grown, and the other one's a teen. So I'm I have a little bit of experience. You still got a journey in front of you, but you're definitely able to do other things at the same time. So
Yeah, and I think this is kind of where I get my balance from, doing music, and I also am doing my master's in counseling to become a therapist, and I'm going to merge those together, the music and therapy sides. But those doing music and doing my master's, it's like baby stuff. I don't know, as a parent, you probably understand it's very like it takes so much energy, and there's like a specific mindset almost that you're in as a
yeah,
parent, and it's so nice to kind of shift into a more just where your own cognitive development is and
Yeah.
focus on like your own goals and growth, because I think it's healthy for him, it's healthy for me to have
Oh,
that
absolutely.
separation, individuation, I guess. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I don't get to do it a
You
ton
notice it.
yet, but I will hopefully down the road. So
And now it's funny that you mention schooling too, because I think you kind of do already relate those two fields, your music
Aw.
career. And now a couple of the singles that definitely stick out when you do a quick search, because one, you had some merchandising behind Welcome to My Life.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at my notes, so I hope I get everything right. So yeah, I did notice merchandising around that. Like you had a logo, like with the hand sticker with your name on it and everything. So I did see that stuff out there. But then Congratulations had a little bit of a kind of a media boost behind it, where you were promoting it with a backstory behind it when you released the music video as well.
Yeah.
So you were speaking, once again, a little atypical, because on our episodes we definitely have people that speak up as allies or as members of the different communities that we're celebrating this month as part of Pride.
Yeah.
But you had focused specifically on a group that maybe isn't as referenced as often, or at least doesn't get the focus of some of the media attention. It's a more nuanced, being pansexual.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I first watched through the video. I didn't 100% get the message. I kind of saw the vibe of what it was going for, but it was my first listen through. I was more so listening to the song.
Yeah.
And then after I read up a little bit and saw the message and went back, I really understood what you were showing. But where did that come from? Is that something that's important to you
Yeah.
as a topic specifically, or is it more so that you are looking out there for people to sort of say like, hey, you're not alone despite the circumstance? Because I do think that, being the field of study that you chose,
Yeah.
your lyrics are probably going to gravitate towards that train of thought.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is this it's not necessarily a Pride thing, but in your music, is it to find that thread with people, like of something different? Or is it these are just topics that matter to you?
I think honestly, it just comes from me kind of journeying along and wanting to be authentic
Mm-hmm.
about myself. And that was part of why I came out as pansexual. I also don't mind the term bisexual.
Mm-hmm.
I use queer more than anything,
Yes.
because it feels like it kind of encompasses the gender side as well. And I find that the gender and sexuality stuff is all kind of, it's all important to me. And I've never really felt like super, super feminine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been kind of just liberating, just be like queer. And then I'm just like, okay, but yeah, I wanted to be authentic about, you know, who I was. And I, it, I guess I would just sort of write about my experiences, including like with Congratulations, this feeling of like a lack of acceptance about who I am at my core in that way, from my community that I grew up in, which is, was really painful. I grew up in like a pretty strict religious community that is not queer affirming. And so as I grew and changed, I eventually left religion altogether, to be comfortable in my own skin and to help with the feeling of shame and everything, because those messages were being reinforced, the shame messages in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to just, I don't know, it just felt like I don't even know if I wanted to. I kind of felt like I had to, like as an
Yeah.
artist, just to be real with people. And I wanted to be able to sing in an honest way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big part of why I had to leave that scene I was in, because I was always writing these songs that I was like, oh, I don't know if I can sing that here.
Yeah,
You
I kind of
know?
get it. Being
Yeah.
from a small town myself, I mean, looking back, it probably was worse than I realized for some people.
Yeah.
But I will, in an optimistic side, when I'm done with this interview, I'm actually heading to a Pride event just
Oh,
5 minutes from my apartment. So obviously times have changed a little for the better.
yeah.
It's heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
And now with your newest single, that one almost, I did write down at first as a note to myself to ask you about it, that it kind of plays like an apology. But then when I really listen to the lyrics, it's more like an admission than an apology.
It's both. I'm
Because
glad you caught that.
yeah, like
It's both. Yeah.
if you were my ex reading that to me as a letter,
Yeah.
it would sound like an apology until I hung up the phone, and then I'd be like, wait, she didn't really apologize to me there. So yeah, where does the meaning behind that song come from? And was that one a hard one to write?
Oh my
I that's
God.
another atypical thing. People don't usually get into that mindset of I did something to you.
Yeah. Yes, it was hard to write. It took me like 3 years to
Hmm.
get into that mindset. And what you're hearing is, I would say it is an apology. And it's kind of like a two truths sort of
Okay.
mindset that I'm speaking from. And that's because of therapy. That's why that's how I can understand that
It's
there's
gold.
actually
The longer
two.
you're on this earth, the more required therapy is. If anyone out there
Awesome.
thinks it's not required, you probably need it.
It's true. Yes, but yeah, I learned that that was a huge part of my journey, was recognizing that it's actually about a friendship breakup, not a
Oh,
relationship.
yeah.
But the friendship was so incredibly close
Hmm.
that, and it was long. It was 8 years long, before it wrapped up, and I had kind of, for the longest time, I was fixating on what she had done and what she hadn't done. And then anytime I would think about what I had done, I was like, so I felt terrible. And I was like, what about what I've done? I didn't even know how to hold space for my own issues, because I was just like, but what about what she did do or didn't do?
Yeah.
And kind of like couldn't, I was trying not to like feel everything because it was so painful. And I think time just helped me to understand, and therapy helped me to understand that, like, it is true that I was a bad friend to her. And it's also true that I was the best friend that I could have been at the time, which was really hard to understand, because I was like, but she's not happy with me, but I did my absolute best. And how could this happen at the same time? And it was like, it did. It doesn't matter how, it just happened that way. And so I think what's cool is that I would never go about a friendship the same way that I
Hmm.
did. I'm not gonna, like, because I chose to learn from it, I'm not gonna carry those dysfunctional patterns forward. At least I'm gonna try not to actively. And I think that I've just sort of like accepted that, that this is, I don't know. The name, The Goddamn Truth, the idea is that, like, it's kind of cursed from the universe in a way. It's like we were not meant to be friends. We had an end date, we just didn't know it. Where
Hmm.
her growth and my growth kind of met a point where it was like, we're just, we gotta go. And it's gonna hurt because I'm
Yeah.
not gonna mix with you anymore. You're not gonna mix with me anymore. And we're probably gonna have a lot of pain, and we did. So anyway, sad, but that song took me a while to write.
I could see
And
that.
yeah.
Congratulations to your therapist for helping you get to that point too.
I'll tell
They
her.
deserve almost like a co-write or something in there.
You know what, I gotta send her the song. I'll tell
Yeah.
her that. Yeah, I'll have to send her this. But yes, she's been pretty great. She's been pretty
Awesome.
helpful with all that. So
And so
yeah.
you're right in the middle, like you just released this single.
Yeah.
So you're right in the middle of pushing that out there. There's content already available, but for people that want to follow you going forward, I don't know, is there any performances coming up in the near future around the Maritimes?
Yeah, just Fredericton right now.
Hmm.
I'm kind of picking very specific shows right now because I have a 1.5-year-old. I'm
Yeah.
not doing a ton, but I am doing them. I've got one coming up here in Fredericton on July 1st in the Tannery downtown. That's happening. But aside from that, there's nothing officially booked in the future right now, but there will be. I'm just not, there's nothing to report as of right now. So
So most importantly, then, I had mentioned a little bit of it already, but for people that want to follow you online and keep up to date and see if there's any new shows or if you have any more singles coming out or more videos, I mentioned you have a YouTube channel.
yes, yeah.
So where do you send people most often? Is there one particular platform, or are you actually able to keep up with? I do it myself on a few different platforms, but do you actually keep up with multiple platforms so people should be following you in multiple places?
Mostly I start with Instagram and I move from there. So I mostly update Instagram. Next is YouTube. I
Hmm.
also upload the same sort of stuff to TikTok. I don't tend to scroll on TikTok a ton. So I'm not as present there,
Hmm.
but I'd say kind of like Instagram is a starting point, and then YouTube because I'm making vlogs and stuff that are more detailed for the people that are over there, and the people that want to know and want more like a longer video will get that
Hmm.
there. So yeah, and then of course there's just like Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff if they want the music side. So
And
yeah.
for anyone that's not watching the video version, Quinn is QWINN.
QWINN. Yeah.
And you have a Discord channel. I have to ask, a lot of the platforms that we have, it'd be similar. We post a lot on Instagram. Facebook may have a little bit different. Our TikTok is usually regurgitation of something else or reuse
Yeah.
of a clip. And
Yeah.
then you don't get as much traction. Sometimes there's a nice little fire under a clip or two.
Yeah.
But you have a Discord channel. I'm curious. We do have one. It's
Yeah.
not been maintained in a while. We've made some attempts. There's definitely a market out there for some people, and I know there's groups out there that live on Discord. So,
Yeah.
how has your experience been with that? Is there a following in there for Quinn?
A little bit. And they're super patient and chill. They
Hmm.
they know that like I'm not on there a ton.
Yeah.
But every now and then I'll kind of pop in and we'll talk about something. There are people that are in my Discord that just chat with each other and send
Hmm.
songs back and forth for feedback or post memes that I understand or don't understand sometimes. And yeah, it's so funny because I don't use it as much as I thought I would. I first launched it when I had the single with Fowler and Slow Palace that came out on Monster Cat. And Monster Cat is a label that has a huge following as a label, and they're huge on Discord. So I was like, well, I need
There
to
you
show
go.
up here. And then I was like, man, I don't feel so good. And then I was like, I don't feel good. And it's been weeks. And then I found out I was pregnant. And then I was hardly on my
Uh,
computer. So Discord was like,
and
has been sort of chilling ever since then. But it's there. It's there.
I do have a question that I kind of missed in the sequence of events, I guess, but I'm curious now that I have more information how it falls in the timeline of you becoming a mom. You had your song also picked up for some sync licensing.
Yes. Yeah. I had a Netflix placement this year. Yeah. On Ginny in Georgia, which was their #1 show for weeks in Canada
Yeah.
and I think the US, a few countries around the world. Yeah, that was insane. It was so the timeline for that was I got an email in May of last year and my son was 6 months old.
Hmm.
And so I was just in the middle of 6-month-old life and doing those sorts of things. And I just checked my phone while I was playing with them. And it was like, I was like, I wonder if this is a real email,
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah. I can see
is
that
this
because
a
you're
real
kind of in baby
email?
mode. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. So we just kind of followed through, the steps and, nothing's done until it's done. Right. So I didn't, um, really get excited until like a few weeks before when it was like, yeah, the show's been sent to Netflix and your song is on it. And it was like, oh, okay. And then I got really excited after everybody heard it, and they were excited, like feed off of people's excitement. About it.
Oh,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
it gave me like a broader reach than I've ever had. I'm hoping to continue to like build on those audiences that I've been able to connect with around the world through YouTube, through Instagram, of course, but also would love to like fly over and do some shows to
Oh,
different
absolutely.
places. So yeah, we'll see. Baby's got to be a little bit older, at
Yeah.
least be able to go on a plane or be chill without me for like at least a week. And we're not there yet.
I haven't been to like a high number of events, but for like festivals and stuff, I do occasionally see some children around. It depends on the child, but it's doable.
Yeah, it
There's
depends on the
options.
kid, depends on the venue. Like he was at Paddle Fest. He saw my show at Paddle Fest. That was so cool because like he was like, "Hey, I know you," and I was like, "Hey, you hear me practice these songs?" But I didn't actually say that, of course.
Yeah.
But we had this moment, But yeah, Paddle Fest is like kind of known for being kid friendly, and that's in St. Andrews, New Brunswick. So
You see,
great,
that's it. The
great
other
one for
advantage of
kids.
being from smaller communities is there's always those music festivals around that are family oriented as far as
Yeah.
the people that are being brought in, and the people that are attending always seem to be able to have those options to bring kids along, especially when there's nice summer weather like we have today. So
Yeah, definitely.
looking forward to a lot more of those this summer as we start heading out. Hopefully we get a chance to see some more performances pop up from you as the summer rolls on too.
Yeah, I would love to do some more. We'll see. I'm just kind of puttering away at getting some new songs together and mom stuff and school stuff. But I'll be
Absolutely.
graduated this time next year, so that'll shift things a little bit. So
Well,
yeah.
great. A lot to look forward to. I think we're now, as we end the episode, we'll play off with The Goddamn Truth.
Awesome.
So thank you for your time, and everyone enjoy the new single, and go out there, find Qwinn online and follow those accounts so we can all keep up to date with what's happening over the next few months and into next year as she graduates and refocuses the career.
Yeah, and feel free to reach out to me and say hi and be like, "Oh, I heard you on this podcast," and I'll be like, "Hey, what's up?" It'll
Oh,
be great.
definitely. Anybody hearing that message, it's definitely encouraged to reach out to people. Everyone that is on this podcast loves to hear feedback from the fans for sure.
Yeah.
You can't be here after what I put you through. I'll never hurt someone the way that I hurt you. That's the goddamn truth. Friends don't do what I did. I get it. Felt poison flowing from my roots. I liked it. I let it. You and I were never meant to last. Just to burn real bright. What's the goddamn truth? What's the goddamn truth? In my head hangs an image in a golden frame. Our last scene, the one we painted with my pain. That look on your face. Friends don't push friends past their limit. I weep under a willow. You show love, it's too vivid. You and goddamn truth. That's the goddamn